They said it would save lives, a breakthrough of science, a cure for the cruelest disease of mankind. But only a few months later, hospitals across the country began to fill with children who could no longer move their legs. Some couldn't breathe. Others screamed in pain that never ended. By the time the government realized what had happened, it was already too late. This is the story of the vaccine that left 40,000 children paralyzed. In the early 1950s, America lived in an invisible fear. Every summer, the polio virus returned like an old nightmare come back to life. No one knew where it came from. No one knew how to stop it. Children who ran and played on the grass in the morning could no longer move their legs by afternoon. Parents lived in panic. Public swimming pools were locked. Schools were silent. Posters warning polio season hung across small town streets. Newspapers printed photos of children lying inside giant metal machines, the iron lungs, that breathed for them when their own lungs could not. An entire generation grew up haunted by the thought that anyone could be the next victim. And then, in the midst of despair, a light appeared. A group of scientists in the United States announced they had found a way to create the first vaccine against polio, an achievement described as a miracle of mankind. News reports on the radio echoed with hope. People lined up waiting for good news, and the press called those scientists the heroes who would save the world. When the government approved mass production, millions of vaccine doses were shipped to hospitals, schools, and health clinics across the nation. Children stood in line holding consent forms, their parents smiling beside them. A new era of medicine had begun, one where a disease that once spread terror would finally be erased forever. No one knew that inside those very vials, a hidden danger was waiting to be awakened. And the miracle the world was celebrating was about to become the greatest nightmare in modern medical history. Everything began in silence. One April morning in 1955, a doctor in a small Idaho town called the state health department. He said that just days after a child received the polio vaccine, the boy could no longer stand. His legs trembled, then gave out. No one believed it was the vaccine's fault. Probably just a coincidence, they said. The virus is still out there anyway. But then another doctor reported the same thing. Then 2, then 3, then 10. Calls poured in from different towns, all with the same description. Healthy children suddenly paralyzed just days after being vaccinated. The nurses began to grow afraid. Some whispered that something was wrong. They saw the desperate eyes of mothers, heard the cries of children who could no longer move their legs. In laboratories, a few scientists quietly began to investigate. They rechecked vaccine samples sent from the manufacturer, Cutter Laboratories. And then, under the microscope, they saw something that froze their blood. Live virus. Not the inactivated virus the process required, but the real polio virus, still capable of causing disease. Instead of protecting, the vaccine was spreading the very illness it was meant to destroy. But when they tried to speak out, their superiors stayed silent. Don't make it worse, they were warned. We can't let the public panic. And when the first report was shoved into a drawer, the disaster had already begun, spreading through every vial, every injection, every child. When the first reports were sent to Washington, panic spread throughout the Department of Health. The officials understood that something terrible had happened. But millions of doses of the vaccine had already been distributed across the country. They could not be recalled. They could not be stopped. In windowless meeting rooms, the debates went on through the night. Some wanted to reveal the truth out of conscience. Others feared that if this came to light, the public's entire trust in medicine would collapse. An internal memo circulated among the agencies. It contained only 3 words typed on a machine: keep it silent. At the same time, journalists began asking questions, but every interview request was denied. Hospital records were withdrawn, vaccine samples were destroyed, and the scientists who dared to speak out were suddenly reassigned. One doctor later recalled, "We were ordered not to talk to the press, even when children were dying in our hands." The official reports were edited. The number of victims was reduced by thousands. In press conferences, only one message was repeated: the vaccine is completely safe. But inside the hospitals, the reality was different. The wards were filled with motionless children. The steady hum of respirators echoed beneath the cold steel roofs of the iron lungs. The cries of parents drifted down the long, dark, endless corridors. A nation was trying to forget the truth, while innocent children were left to live forever with the consequences of that silence. By the end of that year, the official numbers shocked the entire United States. More than 40,000 children were paralyzed. Over 200 were left permanently disabled, and 10 had died. A vaccine once hailed as a symbol of hope had now become a stain on the history of medicine. The investigations began quietly. The name Cutter Laboratories, the vaccine manufacturer, appeared in every report. Beneath the image of a modern scientific company lay a series of serious testing failures. Many batches of the vaccine had not completely inactivated the live virus, causing tens of thousands of children to become infected shortly after vaccination. Scientists in the laboratories were summoned for questioning. Some admitted they had been pressured to produce quickly to meet the government's massive demand. Speed had replaced caution. Profit had overshadowed professional ethics. In the hearings, no one dared to take final responsibility. Everyone blamed the system, the haste, the unintentional mistakes. But for thousands of families, those excuses could never make their children stand again. In the hospitals, the sound of wheels replaced laughter. Long corridors filled with paralyzed children became a haunting image for an entire generation of doctors. People no longer trusted the promises of medicine, and the government was forced to impose the strictest regulations in pharmaceutical history, later known as the Cutter Rules. Even after many years, those wounds never truly healed. For the parents who lost their children, the tragedy was not just a failure of science, but the sin of silence. Decades have passed since the Cutter disaster, but its shadow still haunts American medicine. Every time a new vaccine is tested, the name Cutter is mentioned as a warning. It was not just a laboratory accident, but proof of the terrible price when speed and ambition surpass caution. Today, vaccines have saved millions of lives. Technology is more advanced, and testing procedures are stricter. But history always finds a way to remind us that with just one small mistake, one rushed decision, everything can collapse in an instant. Young doctors are trained with that very lesson. They are taught that in medicine, precision is not just a responsibility, but a matter of human life. A single injection can be the line between hope and tragedy, between life and death. For the families who lost their children, the pain never disappears. They became voices calling for transparency and compassion in the medical field. They remind the world that behind every experiment, every report, are real people. Children who once believed in the promise that vaccines will save the world. The Cutter story is not only a dark chapter in medical history, but also a mirror for us today. To never forget that science is truly great only when it serves humanity with honesty. If you want to uncover more secrets buried within the world of medicine, comment below and tell us which story you want us to reveal next. Don't forget to subscribe to the Doctor's Secret Files, where the truth is always exposed, even when it sends chills down your spine.